I'm Dr. Rachel Griffiths, and I'm with my father and partner in aquatics.
Dr. Tom Griffiths.
Welcome to the Drowning Files, where each week we share a lawsuit we've been involved in or another true story with suggestions to learn from these tragedies to save lives. What case do you have today?
The lawsuit I'm going to talk about, I was reminded of when I was looking through my pictures, and I saw a nice, clear picture of a 3-meter board, a 10-foot high diving board, with bright blue awning, protective awning, that was placed between the handrails on this diving board. And I said to myself, why do I have that picture? And as I looked at it and other pictures, I was reminded of this lawsuit that I had in the past. And I had taken these pictures for that lawsuit in order to help me write an opinion about it. Now, when you see a protective awning or a canvas or fabric tightly sewn in between the stainless steel handrails, that's a good sign in that the people who owned and operated that facility knew that the two handrails were inadequate to protect kids from falling through the rail. So they put up this protective sheet that kept kids from falling between the two handrails. That's the good news. The bad news is, first of all, there should be 3 rails, top, middle, and bottom. And secondly, the handrail should go at least to the edge of the swimming pool, if not 12 to 18 inches beyond it. Then there was a caveat about this case, about this apparatus. The diving board was not straight out at 180 degrees above the edge of the pool. What happened, and happens not too often, but there's only 2 bolts holding that 3-meter board in place. And when one is tight and the other is loose, the board will shift to the side. And so in this particular case, as I reviewed the materials, the board would shift significantly, to the left, which created an unbalance if the diver was on the end of the board or going to the end or turning around. And in this particular case, as is often the case, the child went to the end of the board, and by undulating the board swung several inches to the left, leaving a big gap to the right. The child lost their balance, attempted to turn around and grab the handrail, missed, and landed on the pool deck. Most of these cases do not end in a fatality. This one did not, but broken bones in several locations. And whenever I have a 3-meter case, and I had far too many of them, and I continue to have them, I have some right now that I'm working on, unless you make that diving board apparatus fall-proof, and unless there's fall protection on the pool deck, that the soft padding and matting goes over the edge of the pool, unless you have those things in place, you're going to be found guilty. And in this particular case, there was a very large settlement for this young boy who fell off the end of the board as he turned around. And many children do turn around. And children shouldn't be up on the board. I always say you should be 12 years of age at least before you go to a 3-meter board. But even then, you need good fall protection, both on the diving board. There should be steps rather than a ladder, and there should be safety padding underneath. And before I end, as I looked at this photograph, and as I always suggest safety padding underneath for fall protection, I looked up what these pads are rated as, and it's incredible. Using the ASTM testing methodology, they find these pads eliminate 97% of serious falls from a height of 10 feet and 100% of fatalities. So they reduce breaks, bone breaks, and so forth, serious injuries at a rate of 97%. And so anyone that has a 3-meter board, I think you need to get this padding, and I'm not trying to sell any products here, and I'm not mentioning any names, but if you're going to have a 3-meter board, you need good railings, you need steps rather than a ladder, and you need padding underneath just in case someone does fall to the deck. And so that's the case I have for you today.
And what precautions for parents and caregivers? And also, can you talk about what happened with the child? So, are they completely okay now, and how old they were?
Well, I don't know how they are now because this happened years ago, and I don't track the victims, but I believe in this case they broke their jaw and might have broke their clavicle. Usually they have some damage to their face or head, and then usually, a fall from 10 feet to bare concrete, that's quite traumatic. Not only emotionally but physically to the body. So as I remember, it was a broken jaw and a broken clavicle, and many people will break their either legs or ankles. But broken bones are most often a part of these falls because it's a blunt force trauma to the extremities, if not to the head and shoulders. So most of these kids recover well. Sometimes if there's a facial injury, the scar remains, which will really increase the financial reward to the victim and the victim's family. But in this case, I think he's fine, but a broken jaw is no laughing matter. When it comes to parents using 3-meter boards, the problem is many parents, when they were kids, there were more 3-meter boards available than there are today because of liability, because of accidents. And so because parents have gone off 3-meter boards as a reward for passing their beginner swim test, and because the people running the pool remember jumping off that very 3-meter board when they were young kids, they want their children, they want their grandkids to have the same experience. But allowing young kids 6, 8, 10 years of age to climb a ladder over 10 feet over concrete in a wet environment is just crazy. Yes, we did it before in the 60s and 70s, but we shouldn't be doing it today, after the year 2000. It's just very dangerous. It's like allowing your children to ride in a car without seatbelts and car seats for children and without airbags. It's just too dangerous. We haven't updated that at all. But if parents are going to allow their children to go off a 3-meter board, first of all, I wouldn't let them go off unless there was fall protection. But then secondly, I would stand at the ladder at the base and tell them to look straight forward. Don't turn around. Don't turn around anywhere. Just keep moving forward, baby steps. Once they get up on the board, to follow the rivets. There's pairs of rivets, little circular bumps that go down the middle of the board, most diving boards, and keep your feet on those, look straight ahead. When you get to the end, you wrap your big toes over the edge, and then the parent can count to 3 or whatever when they jump off. But you don't say something like, "Oh, Sally, look at me, I want to take a picture," because that has led to 3-meter deaths in the past. They turn around, lose their balance, and fall on the deck. So I would tell parents to really attempt to refrain from allowing your children to go off a 10-foot tall 3-meter board unless you have steps with stairways and spindles, at least 3 rails that go beyond the deck, and protective padding underneath.